Are you an overwhelmed mom feeling like you're drowning in a sea of responsibilities? You wish you had more hours in the day to get everything done? Does it feel like you're in a fast-paced lane and life is just go, go, go with no breather? Well, today I'm going to share a simple yet powerful trick that transformed my life, and I believe it will do the same for you. This simple trick that is actually a very old biblical command has helped me manage my time more efficiently, reduced stress and anxiety, and it has helped me be more productive. I really believe that this one trick can transform your life as a busy mom, whether you're homeschooling, a homemaker, a homesteader like I, or a working mom. Now you're going to want to stick through to the end, because at the end I'm going to have a few tips for how to implement this one simple, life-changing practice. As I talk, you'll see me do some cooking in preparation for the upcoming weekend. Oh, and by the way, if you want to know about any of the recipes that you see me making, be sure to look for my new channel in the description box below, which is going to be strictly recipes. It's called Mountain Mama's Home Kitchen, and it will be starting up in May. Lately, I have had a growing number of moms who are raising multiple children reach out to me on my YouTube channel, Mountain Mama's Home. They want to know things like, how do I do all that I'm doing? How do I run the homestead, homeschool the kids? How do I do all the homemaking, have a part-time job on top of it all? And how do I find rest amidst all of this? How do I find a moment to myself? How do I deal with the overstimulation, the overwhelm, the constant go, go, go of being a stay-at-home mom and a homeschool mom with a farm and a part-time job? Across the board, what I'm seeing is women expressing desperate burnout, anxiety, and heartache because they're stuck, since we are a family who decided early on to let the Lord take the wheel when it came to the size of our family. My husband and I have a larger family. There are 8 of us in all. My husband and I have 6 blessings that fill our hearts with more joy than we ever thought could exist this side of heaven. We also believe that the Lord has called us to home educate our most precious blessings, and we've been blessed with a homestead for our family that is providing healthy food, and we have businesses that help us provide. Got to keep afloat somehow. We have many plates full, so I get this question from the mamas asking me. I get the overwhelm. I understand it deeply to my core because I have had years of experiencing it. In my journey, I have experienced so much overwhelm, loneliness, exhaustion, and even sickness. Currently dealing with a chronic illness. In fact, maybe you've seen some of the videos where I've talked about that. I did a video a couple of years ago, midlife crisis, and I've talked a lot about mom overwhelm here. I really do get it. Once I figured out how to make this tip that I'm going to share with you happen, things started to change. I'm not able to make this happen every single weekend, but when I do, it makes all the difference in the world. Some people are not going to like what I have to say about this, but those people are not who this message is for today. Those people don't need this message. They do not have the experience that the people experiencing the overwhelm do. So here's my secret. I've learned that the devil wants us chasing our tails. He doesn't want us to have a moment's peace. He knows if we're run down, depleted, exhausted, always running here and there, that we become weak. When we are weak and exhausted, he can have his way with us and our families. I discovered that the solution to this problem is quite simple. In fact, the solution is even listed as one of the 10 commandments. I'm not kidding. How simple is that? Here it is. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the 7th day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, you or your son or your daughter or your male servant or your female servant or your livestock or the sojourner who is within your gates. For in 6 days the Lord made the heaven, the earth, and the sea, and all that is in them, and rested on the 7th day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. My secret is that I have a Sabbath day, and I've learned the hard way that I must protect it because even things appearing to be good will come to take it away. For typical Christian women with children, here is what a typical Sunday looks like. Wake up, wake the family up, make breakfast, get the kids bed. All of this takes time, which is ticking by, and the mom is keeping an ever watchful eye on it. Keep in mind. Next, get the kids ready. Have you brushed a little girl's long baby fine hair? Well, there is nothing quick about that. Half the kids can't find their shoes, and the youngest won't leave his on once you do find them. He won't leave his clothes on either, or his diaper. Finally, 30 minutes before it's time to leave, mom must race. She needs to make herself somewhat presentable. She's running out of time, and now the stress is on. Now, she's tried getting ready before everybody else before, but that didn't go over so well because when she went to nurse the baby spit up on her clean church clothes, and then she had to go treat that stain and figure out something else to wear, all 5 minutes before it was time to head out the door. So she's learned it's just best to wait till just before church to put her nice clothes on. If she finds a split second to check her appearance in the mirror, she feels quite self-conscious because she didn't have enough time to get ready. And she's actually embarrassed to be seen like this, but anywho, it's time to go. As mom gets in the car, she feels frumpy and frustrated and frazzled and tired already. After all, she's been working and racing for 3 hours solid. Everyone piles into the car and mom enjoys a brief moment of rest, if you dare call it that, as long as the kids aren't bickering. They get to church. Now it's time to smile and be sociable and answer all of the "how are you todays" with "I'm doing great," even though she's absolutely overwhelmed and feels like she's drowning. For the introverted moms, by the way, this is absolutely exhausting. Now it's time to get everybody seated and listen to the sermon. Some days the sermon is really great and the mom gets something out of it. Some Sundays, not so much. Now it's time to socialize again. Now it's time to go home. Another brief and debatable break on the ride home. Family gets home and it's past lunchtime. Some weeks that went by smoothly. Mom was able to prepare a Sunday casserole in advance. Other weeks that didn't go as planned, there's no casserole. So the mama makes a lunch and feeds everybody. Now it's time to wash the dishes and clean the kitchen. Now it's 2 or 3. Finally, mom can now rest for an hour before it's time to start dinner and the evening rush starts and the day's over. After some time and months and years of doing this with my small children, I realized there was no rest in this, none at all. Every day was filled with going, even the Sabbath day. My husband worked all of the time. He worked 5 and 6 days a week. Sunday was our only time to spend together, but on days like this, where we spent the day racing, we didn't have time for each other. We didn't have time for our marriage. I want to share some history of Sundays with you. In researching for this video, I found something interesting about Sabbath and Sunday. Now, I think everybody knows that originally in Hebrew times, Saturday was regarded as the 7th day and the true Sabbath day. Now, that's a rabbit trail we're not going to get into, other than to say, apparently it was Constantine who established Sunday as a day of rest around 321 AD. Here's where it gets really interesting. Around 365, Laodicea, hope I'm saying that right, it was basically like an ancient metropolis. They canceled the Catholic Church to make it illegal to be idle from work on the Sabbath. I do have references to this in the blog post if you would like to see them. I had to read that 3 times to make sure I read it right, and I'm still not sure I read it right. The Catholic Church made it illegal to obey one of the 10 commandments. Laodicea is thought to be the same group of cities Jesus condemned. Apparently, they had adopted a lot of bad doctrine, among other things. Now, I don't find this difficult to believe, seeing as they made it illegal to rest on the Sabbath day. To me, it seems that we're still under that ruling, though, because the cold hard fact is that if you have a gaggle of young children, there is absolutely nothing restful about getting everybody up at the crack of dawn and getting everyone ready to rush out the door on a Sabbath day. There's absolutely no way this does not qualify as work. And not just any work, but stressful work. If you have done it, you know. If you haven't done it, you should try it. I guess those Laodiceans, not sure how to say it, were a lot like society now. They like to keep mamas hoppin'. I know, you only ever hear of devout Christian, church-going women of young children talking about how they do this every Sunday religiously. They talk about how hard it is sometimes, but they firmly believe they are doing what all of us should be doing. And they believe this is the righteous, godly sacrifice to make. And they're right, thing to do. If you don't, well, you are wrong. I have several points to make today regarding this, and the first one is I am not a legalist, and I want to get that out of the way. But one could argue that instead of making one more righteous, working half the day on a Sabbath day to prepare your family for church on the day that we do regard as the Sabbath, it could be considered as breaking one of the 10 commandments and therefore making one less righteous. The second is another important verse a lot of people miss. Colossians 2:16, which reads, "Therefore do not let anyone judge you by what you eat, drink, or with regard to a religious festival, a new moon, celebration, or a Sabbath day." All right, I know what you're thinking now. What about Hebrews 10:25? Hebrews 10:25 reads, "Not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together, as is the manner of some, but exhorting one another, and so much more as ye see the day approaching." I think the first fact we should establish is that this verse does not say not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together on the Sabbath day, nor does it say you are commanded to assemble yourself weekly, or you must be at every assembly that takes place. The second fact we need to acknowledge is that God did not command people to gather on the Sabbath day. This is a human, man-made idea. We're going to come back around to Hebrews 10:25 because I have something else to point out about it. But for now, let's just take a look at some more things that the Bible actually does say. In Titus 2, women with young children are commanded to be keepers at home and to love their children and husbands. Obeying this verse is work. Women with young children care for their children all week. This work is hard work, and it's even harder for those who are homeschooling. Religious church-going mamas end up having to work all week doing homemaking and homeschooling, so it's 2 jobs. And we often hear these same moms express exhaustion over the whole church morning routine. When they do, they're systemically told it's because Satan's trying to keep you from coming. But here's what Jesus said. Matthew 11, verse 28 through 30. "Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." There ain't nothing light about getting a bunch of kids ready for church to go anywhere, not even to church on Sunday morning. A lesson I've learned in life is if something's too heavy, it's either because I'm not relying on God enough or because I've taken on something God didn't ask me to do. Jesus said he gives us rest. Now, I do understand this is in the spiritual sense, and I think that's important to acknowledge. But God is not going to step down from his throne on Sunday and help me get my children ready so that I can obey Exodus 20 and rest like my body, heart, and soul desperately need in order to heal and recover and mentally prepare for the week ahead. Then I believe it's clearly my choice to spend half the day working to rush the family out the door on the Sabbath day. I want to tell you something. Home church counts too. If guilt was a destination, I think some, not all, but some churches and church leaders could be travel agents. Have you ever experienced being guilt-tripped because you didn't go to church? I have, and it used to work on me. I have since come to learn a dark fact that was one of the hardest facts for me to accept in my life, and it happened when I was around 35. There are many wonderful church leaders in this world. There are many that are walking in the Lord, but there also exist false prophet leaders and leaders who are walking in the flesh, who prioritize power and money over hearts. Full pews is their ego ticket to ride and their pay too, and they will misuse Hebrews 10:25 against you in a heartbeat. There are also misinformed leaders who are simply inexperienced and they don't know any better. These same leaders usually refuse to recognize that a Christian mother of young children, like them, is also in ministry. They also refuse to recognize Christian homeschooling as a ministry, think that they alone carry the ministry torch, when the fact is, if more mothers and fathers were encouraged and supported to see their role as a critical leading discipleship ministry in the world, then the world would be a better place, and church leaders would not have bigger jobs than they can clearly handle. Deuteronomy 6:6-9. These commandments that I give you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the doorframes of your houses and on your gates. This is a command to parents to disciple their children, not to leave it up to churches and schools. Sadly, instead of encouraging parents to do Deuteronomy 6:6-9, too many churches embrace sending our most precious, vulnerable, and weakest away from us and into the godless, prayerless, soft, and sometimes hard war zones that we call public education, where small children are forced to undergo school shooting drills and learn that there are 12 different genders. Come on, people, wake up. The result is hurting generations of kids who become lost souls, many of which, ironically, spent their entire childhoods being taken to church. It's quite diabolical, if you ask me. Let's get to the root of the problem. The root of the problems start in childhood. But I digress. Back to the guilt trips. They used to work on me until after having my fourth child, homeschooling a while, and dealing with taking care of the children all week and cooking from scratch to accommodate one of my children's many food allergies, and then working half of Sunday too, I realized something's not right here. I started feeling like a light bulb that was always left on. I started experiencing health issues and major burnout. The church was starting to slowly suggest I send my children to public school. For a while, I was mad at God. I knew I had heard him clearly, but I was starting to think he had forgotten my plight and the homeschooling mother's plight by never providing mothers like me a moment to breathe and rest. It was around that time that a revelation hit my husband and I. We realized we had a handful of kids. Then we realized that if we called all of our kids together and each other together in the living room for a little study and some worship, that we were an assembly. We realized then that we were fulfilling Hebrews 10:25. Here's the really cool thing that Satan doesn't want anybody to know. Homeschooling moms have an opportunity to do this daily. All right, now before some disgruntled devout churchgoers get all huffy and suggest getting everything ready the day before church, let me just state that sure, that might work for some families, but one size does not fit all. Not everyone can take a half a day on Saturday to prepare their young family. Some people have to work Saturdays. In addition to this, many mothers find that even though they do get everything ready the day before, it doesn't always make a difference because the kids get into it and undo the work they did. The fact is, the Bible does say in Matthew 18:20, "For where 2 or 3 gather in my name, there am I with them." It does not specify where they need to gather. I have a few tips for a restful Sunday. These are some suggestions and tips that I've discovered that help me have a more peaceful, restful Sunday and leave me recharged and ready for the week ahead. But before I share them, I do want to say this. There are seasons of life, there are weeks sometimes, there's even months, where it's difficult to do these steps. When I was homeschooling 6 children, before my oldest graduated, I was in a long season of grueling hard work. It was the best I could do just to carve out a few hours of rest on Sunday. I know that there are hard seasons in motherhood, especially for large families and especially for large homeschooling families. Currently, there is still 1 and sometimes 2 Sundays a month where life happens in the week, and there are things that have to be done on Sunday because of whatever happened. For example, we recently had a very sick dog that we had to take care of, and it cost me a couple days in the week, which had to be made up for on Sunday. I believe Luke 14:5 addresses this issue, and it reads, it's Christ speaking, and it reads, "Which one of you will have a son or an ox fall into a well and will not immediately pull him out on a Sabbath day?" Okay, so, we've got to keep a balance here in common sense. The trick is not to let those seasons, those hard seasons, become permanent. At some point, it's important to start to break free and get back into a habit of resting on Sunday. I have a few videos on time management that can help you with this, and I'll try to remember to link to those in the description box below. With that said, here are 5 tips that help me to carve out and create precious Sabbath days for myself and my family. The first tip is to plan ahead. Just as if you were planning a dinner party, you can plan ahead for a restful Sunday starting on Friday. On Friday, make a Sunday meal plan. Get the food out of the freezer to thaw, get meat out, whatever you need, or get food purchased. Currently, I work half of Saturdays in the office, and I do this around 2 or 3 Saturdays a month. After work, however, I try to put together a food plan and make as much as possible in advance. The other Saturdays a month that I'm not working in the office, I will have a cooking marathon where I am working and, of course, filming for the channel. And I make as much food as I can for Sunday and the week ahead. Those always make for the best Sundays and weeks. Here's a little bonus side tip. I've got a breakfast casserole, a couple of them actually. I will link to them in the description box below. They're on the blog. They're great for Sunday mornings. You can make them the day before. Tip 2, this is optional. Clean the house ahead of time if you have time. If possible, try to get it clean. It's so much nicer to rest in a clean home. If you don't have time to clean, at least tidy up. We clean on Friday at our home, sometimes on Saturday, but usually Friday. And so by Sunday, it usually is pretty messy, especially considering that I guess you could say Sabbath starts on Saturday night in our home, and it's not uncommon that we leave the dishes on Saturday night till the next day. Tip 3, don't forsake the assembly. This can be the hard one. When you do home church, you have to be responsible. I think it's one of the most important things to do as a family, to gather everyone in and sit down together for a Bible reading. Or if you want to get fancy, you could do a Bible study. You could do some worship time and sing some songs. Don't forget the discussion time though. That's the best part. It's where you can talk about ways to apply what you have been learning. And this is one of the most effective ways to make the Bible come alive to kids. It's especially helpful when it comes from the parents, just like it said in the scriptures in Deuteronomy. There's something special about parents doing this with children that has so much life. Lately, my husband has simply been reading through Proverbs with our family. It doesn't have to be complicated. You can just pick a book of the Bible and read through it. Tip 4 is to rest. If you are a doer and a goer, this can be the hardest part of all, especially if, like me, you have ADHD. This is really important though, because this is what can help keep you from burnout. Find a way to rest and relax. Find something that gets you in a restful zone. Tip 5, take the opportunity to spend some quality time with your family. I know that Satan loves nothing more than to keep families scattered apart, constantly going, and to keep them from tying heartstrings and having good times together. Sunday is the perfect day to spend some time making sweet memories together and stop and smell the roses together. One of my fondest childhood memories was one time when my stepdad did this. He rarely stopped, but one of my fondest memories was when he stopped to do that. One thing we've started doing in our family is having a game afternoon, and it has been such a delight to spend time being goofy with the kids. Here are my final thoughts. Our family has found a church that we love. We rarely attend it as a family, but we love it. The pastor is a good shepherd who has helped our family in times of trial, and I know that we can call on him and he would be there. Even though we don't attend regularly, we do cherish the times we do get to go, and the church has made a difference, especially in our children's lives. To millions, church is needed, and I do believe it is especially important for teenagers and youth. Churches rooted in Christ regularly give millions of people strength, fellowship, therapy. And they do this every day. There is power and life in the church. There is power in gathering with other believers and praying. We need more earnest pastors and church leaders who are seeking first the kingdom of God. And this world would be a much, much more terrible place without them and the church leaders and the work that they do. I also believe in tithing to our local churches. Unfortunately, money is a necessary evil needed to survive, and pastors and churches need to survive. In addition to this, there are times where we, especially mothers in the trenches, need fellowship. Proverbs 27:17 reads, "As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another." And we are called to encourage each other as well. And young mothers especially need this. On the other side of the same hand, there can be death and powerlessness in the church as well, when church leaders fail to recognize that there are other members of the same body of Christ with different looking but equally important callings and needs. Ideally, in a perfect world, we would all be able to take Saturday as a Sabbath rest day. Ideally, we would then be able to attend church on Sunday. But the reality is that this simply just would not work for many families on a regular basis for a variety of reasons. Home church works too, as long as you actually go through with it. We live in a day and time where we even have the ability to do virtual church, and we can tune into sermons online. So many churches do local live streams, which is wonderful. In Mark 2:27 and 28, Jesus tells us, "And he said unto them, the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. Therefore the Son of Man is also Lord also of the Sabbath. And I think Romans 14 is a good chapter to read that can apply to this situation. So in conclusion, if a mother has the health and the energy and the need to be in church every Sunday and has found a way to do this with minimal stress and work, then that's what she should do, especially if she believes it's what she should do. But for anyone to say this is a requirement that all mothers and even fathers of young should live up to and make sacrifices to fulfill is not scriptural, and I believe it's putting pharisaical yokes on people that God does not. If the church is hindering you from fulfilling the responsibilities towards your family that God has called you to, and if it's inhibiting you from resting on the Sabbath, and if it has become a yoke of slavery, then something isn't right.
There are a couple things that I wish I had known about large families going into having a large family. One of them is that you don't really get breaks, especially in the beginning, mainly in the beginning. So when all you have are younger children, you have to be really intentional about setting breaks. For example, the more children I had, the less rest I found I was getting on Sunday, especially when we were running out to church every Sunday. That made for absolutely no rest all week for me, especially considering back then my husband worked very, very long hours. He was working as a farmhand, so it was just me watching the kids all the time. And he would be home on the weekends and Sundays, but Sundays were spent just racing. So I would take Friday cleaning the house and then Saturday cooking and preparing food for Sunday and Saturday, because you have to cook for the day that you're actually into. So I would cook for Saturday and Sunday. Then I've started doing this again lately, and it's wonderful. It's a wonderful thing to do if you can. Not everybody can. Like for a long time, when we entered this stage where we had younger kids, middle kids, and then older kids, there were very little breaks, and it seemed like nothing we did really seemed to help with creating very many breaks. But now things are getting a little bit easier. Homeschooling high school, middle school, and elementary school age children, all of those groups is a lot. So that's another thing I just wish I knew, is how much work that it was going to be and how to create more breathers in there. And all of this was stuff we had to figure out on our own along the way, and it was difficult. There were long stretches of years where it was just grueling. There was a long stretch when I had my oldest in high school, second entering high school, and then the middle school, and then lots of little ones. And I still have that situation going on, but it's easier. I've gotten used to it for one. My oldest has graduated, and so it is getting a lot easier, partly just because I learned how to balance things. And so that is something I wish I knew going into having a large family, is how much work it was going to be and how the logistics, like how to make it work and work efficiently and still create rest breaks in there.
I will go through and show you now what Sundays are not uncommon to be like in our home. We started family time the night before, so the kitchen is a bit of a mess. Sometimes we clean it up, about half the time. Half the time we have the energy to clean it up. But last night, my daughter decided to stay up late making huckleberry pies. And when she said she wanted to make huckleberry pies, I had no idea she meant this many, but she did. So that's great. We have a lot of huckleberry pies for breakfast this morning. I was able to get some bread made the day before. I like to get up early Sunday morning and do a little bit of planning for the week ahead while it's quiet. Kind of my early Sunday morning ritual. I'll go through, look at what I got done for the past week, what didn't get done and needs to be transferred. It's very messy this particular Sunday because we had that sick puppy. So the vet sent us with all kinds of supplies. I still need to find homes for all the extra supplies that we didn't end up using. On this particular Sunday, we are praising God because our puppy made it through the sickness. The boys decided, hey, let's have some hash browns this morning. So I asked them to get some carrots because I knew I was going to be making a roast. Farm animals still need to be fed on the Sabbath day. My oldest son is letting the chickens out and the goats out, and he's getting their waters and foods filled. Somebody's going to make some eggs for breakfast, and everybody's starting to dig into the pies. So I guess we're doing a first breakfast and a second breakfast this morning. I realized that we were out of bread and we were going to need some for Monday morning. I already had the bread dough made up in the fridge, so I just pulled it out to bake up. There are little things like this that still need to be done on Sunday, and if they don't get done on Sunday, that means there's no toast for the kids on Monday morning. So sometimes there are little things like this that still need to be done on the Sabbath day for us. And in this scene, the family is getting ready to sit down for some Bible reading. I am getting ready to relax to a chicken hatching video because tomorrow I have to start our hatching program. We do eventually get the kitchen cleaned up on Sunday, so I did want to show you that. It takes a little group effort. One of the Sunday activities is people are free to pursue their talents. So this little guy here, he's got a new hand pan that he's so excited about. My oldest son will often play his guitar for long times. So there's always lots of music, and you can really tell that the kids savor each and every moment of their Sundays. We often think about how the go, go, go is wearing us down, but we don't realize that kids need some downtime too. They need rest as well, and opportunities and some time to do their own thing and decompress. On this particular day, it's about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's been a nice, peaceful day. I'm doing some finishing touches on dinner tonight, and while I do that, my husband's going to take the oldest kids for a driving lesson. There isn't time for us to do that during the week. Sunday is the only day that we have time to do that, and we have older kids that need driving practice and lessons. When you're raising really young children, you don't think about this stage. Something else that leads to mom overwhelm is a lot of people don't take a moment to stop and realize teaching teenage children is different than teaching and raising middle school age children, which is different than raising elementary children. Each requires different hats and is time consuming. And my point in bringing that up is if you're raising a larger family, you're not going to have as much time as people raising only 1 or 2 kids. And activities that families that are smaller have time for. You have to be a lot more guarded with your time. You have to be more protective of your time and where you're spending it, because you will end up overspending your time in areas then not have the time or the energy for the most important things. Having a day of the week that is your breather day, having a day to rest and rejuvenate. Give your brain a break. It's a reset. It's a reset that helps you be more productive. It helps you to be sharper and helps you to notice areas that might need some work in your family. It gives you an opportunity to notice where some children might need a little extra time in certain areas of life or more discipleship. One thing I want to warn you about, something's going to try to distract you. Something's going to try to jump up and keep you busy. For me, one of those things is always laundry. It's always there. Laundry and dishes. It is hard. It's hard to take a day and say, no, I'm not going to focus on that today. I'm going to focus on what is most important, and that is simply making sure everybody's fed physically and spiritually and rested. It does take some work. It takes some time. It takes some practice, but not kidding. It is so worth it. If you want to be a transformed mama, take Sabbath rest day.